Hello everyone, welcome, Merry Christmas, Season's Greetings and New Year as applicable, and welcome to my channel if you're one of my new subscribers who came here from Void. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a kind of general feeling that I've been having recently over the last couple of weeks it's not very scientific and I can't really back it up with a lot of evidence, but it's something that I want to explore. And I know I'm not the only one who's been feeling this way. It's about my country, it's about the UK, about my government, and about the general public as well, the zeitgeist of the UK right now. And I have to say that it's not exactly optimistic. Some of you may have watched the video stream that I did about the new UK policy on advertising and gender stereotypes. And even though it's just one tiny thing that in itself doesn't really mean anything, that news story, I have to say that was the thing that started me off thinking this way. The thing that I'm worried about most is that people in the UK, and the government specifically, do not seem to care about liberty. They don't care about the personal responsibility of individuals. They don't care about taking away the freedoms of UK citizens just, bit by bit. And even though I'm very glad that I do live in a country where I do believe that our rights are protected and that we are relatively free, especially compared to some countries on earth, I'm very happy living in the country that I do and being raised in this country as well with in this culture. And yet I feel like it's something that's slipping away bit by bit. Or rather, I feel like it may start slipping more in the future. I know it's a slippery slope argument to say that, what next, this, but the actions that the government has been taking and the lack of outrage from anybody except basically YouTube commentators and occasionally the Daily Mail, it seems like nobody even cares or even notices that this is happening, not of the wider general public, I mean. And yet I do feel like even though no major freedom has been taken away of the UK people, I still feel like what's happening now is indicative of a state of mind that I find quite disturbing. To be more specific, I'll tell you about some of the things that I mean. Sargon of Akkad recently made a video about the Conservative Party, and I have to say, even though I don't always agree with Sargon of Akkad, I think that video was pretty spot on. He listed a few things that the Conservatives, who have been in power for the last, 5 years, since 2010, although they were in a coalition before, but since then, rather than increasing the freedom of the people, like you might hope the Conservatives to do, they have passed a few different, I don't know what you'd call it, legislations, policies, that have been rather in the opposite direction, and no freedoms have been given back to the people. It's become a meme online to make fun of the way that in the UK knives are prohibited and the way that they're regulated. But more petty than that is the recent suggestions that soon there's going to be a cap on the number of calories that you can have in a pizza or a ready meal. It's going to be capped to stop people from eating too much in one sitting. Also the sugar tax that was recently put in place, I think it was a few years ago now, the foods and drinks containing over a certain amount of sugar will now be more expensive, or rather they are more expensive now, and the extra tax goes to the government, doesn't go to the people selling it, obviously. Supermarkets and shops were recently prohibited from giving away free plastic bags with their shopping, carrier bags to take the shopping home. They're now charging 5 or 10 pence for them. The lowest amount you could charge for them was previously 5 pence, and is now going up to 10 pence to stop people using plastic. Single-use plastic is another thing in general, not just in carrier bags, but in straws and other things. I think they're soon going to be either prohibited, taxed, I don't really know, but pornography was regulated a few years ago, so that there were certain sexual acts that are no longer being allowed to be viewed in the UK. And it's just all like a cloud of little small things that none of them I really care about. And even together, they don't really have an impact on my life, and I don't think they're going to make that much of a difference to anybody in the UK. And it's all just, to me, indicative of a state of mind that it's indicative of the opinion that people, the citizens of the UK, are not capable of taking care of themselves, not capable of making decisions for themselves, and that they need this help. They need these restrictions to stop them hurting themselves constantly, to stop them becoming obese, to stop them using plastic in the wrong way. It's all just, to me, it just seems very condescending. All of it is the idea that the people need this kind of, restrictions in order to live the life that the government deems to be the correct way of living. And nowhere in the conversation about any of these things am I seeing any discussion of freedom or liberty as a counterpoint. We see counterpoints of people saying, "Oh, is this really needed?" or whatever. But like I said, other than the YouTube commentary community, I'm not seeing much of a discussion of liberty as a concept, as a value unto itself. And it's not something that people in the UK even really care about. Just the regular average Joe that people I work with, people I see online who I know, my family, my extended family. It's just not something people care about. And it's kind of funny to me the way that I used to. I mean, in the UK, I don't know if those of you watching who don't live here know that it's kind of a bit of a joke to make fun of Americans for a few things, like the way they have guns and the way they're obese, and Trump now is one of the funny things to make fun of. People enjoy that, and the fact that Americans love freedom is something that I previously would join in mocking. It's like, what, it's not like an unkind way, and I'm not trying to say that people in the UK are racist against or prejudiced against Americans. It's just that sort of, if you were making fun of Americans, those are the things that you would make fun of them for, in a kind of light-hearted manner. But freedom was one of those things. The American obsession with freedom is something that is slightly mocked, I think, in the UK. And although I used to join in on that, I now feel like the Americans got the right idea, right? And Americans are, or rather the American Constitution and the American people, the original American people, not Native Americans, but the settlers, came from the UK. A lot of them did. I know they came from, there's a lot of European immigrants in America as well, and there's a lot of sort of mixing going on there. But I feel like I'm justified in saying that the initial sort of cultural influences and ideology of the idea of America, right, the settlers and their founding fathers, was British. At the time, those were people, those ideas came from Britain originally. And the more I learn about the Declaration of Independence and the revolutionaries and the founding fathers, the more I respect the US, America, the idea that America is built on, and your Constitution. I've learned to kind of have a deep admiration for it in a way that I don't have for my own country. And maybe that's just a little bit silly to have this kind of admiration for a country I've never been to. But I really feel like America did something right, and that freedom is something that is worth fighting for, right? And having their revolution and just what you could call the American experiment, it seems to be extremely successful. I mean, the United States has the biggest GDP in the world, and I don't think that's coincidence. It's like they're doing something right. You're doing something right, America, and whatever you're doing right, I mean, we're doing okay. And like I said, I love my country. I love living here. I love the people here, but I still feel like I feel like we're on a slow decline. And maybe there's no scientific reason to say that, because the standard of living has been on the incline, rather rapidly in the last 100 years. We've been doing very well. People here are much richer than they used to be, and we are there's a lot of social things that have been that have progressed that are much better than they used to be, obviously, and I'm happy for that. And I think it's, like I said, it's a great country, but I do feel like relative in our culture and in our ideology, and specifically in our preservation of freedom and liberty, we're just losing it steadily. We just like every day it gets just a little bit worse in terms of how much the government actually cares about preserving our liberty. And I really don't think there's any remedy for that unless we have a revolution, which I really don't think is called for right now. Like I said, there's nothing going on right now that I think is worth revolting about. But I do feel like I don't like where we're headed. And I don't know whether at this point, whether it's better for me and my husband, for our family, and whatever family we have in the future, to stay here. And if I feel like we could have a prosperous life in America, and that I could, of course America does have its faults, but I feel like I could get behind the culture there in a way that I'm not quite here anymore. I'm feeling a little bit alienated by my own culture at the moment. It seems to me that, 300, 400 years ago, 300 and something years ago, the people in Britain, in the UK, who cared about liberty, went to America. I know this is simplistic and not exactly historical, but what I feel like is that everybody who cared about liberty in the UK moved to America. They became the settlers and the revolutionaries and all of that, and they started this amazing thing over there. And here in the UK, we're slowly losing out because everybody who knew that liberty was important just moved there, and they're doing great, and we're doing less great. And I know that not everybody in America cares about freedom, and I know that they've got their own fights for their liberty over there. But at least the conversation seems to be around the concept of liberty. There seems to at least be arguments about liberty, whereas here, the argument's about something completely irrelevant, and liberty is not involved at all as part of the argument. And that's really what bothers me the most. So what I want to know now is, what do I do? Because do I stay here and try to fix things? Do I try to contribute in my tiny way to improving the UK, to improving our culture by just by being me, by having the beliefs that I do, and by voting in favour of liberty at every possibility? Or do I move somewhere that seems to actually care about liberty? The United States seems to be I suppose you could call it the freest country on earth, and that seems like it's working, and I feel like that's in line with what I think. And maybe that's very naive, and I shouldn't be admiring America in this way, and I've never even been there, and I've only met a few Americans, and I didn't even like all of them. Maybe I would hate living there. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, and I really don't think I'm going to be moving anytime in the next 10 years or so, just because of personal reasons. But those are just some things that I've been thinking about, and I'd like to hear from you, from those of you who live in the UK, what you think about what I've said. Am I overreacting? Am I underreacting? Do you agree with me? And from those of you in the United States, do you think I'm right to idolize the founding fathers and the founding myth of America? I know those people were not exactly saints, and they certainly had their faults. I don't mean to whitewash history. And how do you think I'd get on if I did move to America? An interesting question, I think. Maybe it'd be especially interesting to hear from those of you who have lived in both America and the UK. That would be cool. I want to quickly thank my husband for getting me this light for Christmas. It's been lighting up my face in quite a pleasing way, and I hope it will make me easier on the eyes for those of you who are who've been bothering me about such things. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon.